Hi Geetanjali, welcome to Placement Wired. So, how are you feeling?
Hi, Ankit. I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm good too. So, Geetanjali, with this platform, we actually intend to help our viewers in order to understand what are the important actions to be taken while preparing for their campus placements.
Sure. Happy
Yeah,
to help. We can
sure.
start with the questions.
Cool. So, Geetanjali, we'll go ahead with the resume formation. So, what are the important pointers according to you while one should, while they are preparing their resume?
Right. So, in IIM Nagpur, in our college, so the resume format is pretty standard for every student. It covers your past experience, then college extracurricular activities, position of responsibilities, and your internship points. So, I'll go line by line, considering your past experience and your internship points. Both of them should be in a way which actually makes it relevant for the position for which you are applying for. And one of the most important thing that please highlight the correct term in each and every CV point. It should not be very long, but it should always have some quantitative value associated with it, or it should at least highlight a particular characteristic of yours, like what are you trying to convey through the particular CV point. It should be clear that you contributed addition of, I think, 50 crores to revenue. So how were you able to achieve it? The simply writing that contributed this much amount to revenue does not mean anything. What did you do that led to this contribution would actually give more weightage to that CV point. Apart from that, the similar concept actually applies to POR as well as your extracurricular activities. But I'll say focus more on these past experience points as well as your internship points, because you're going into corporate world, and these points are much more relevant than the other points, because they need that experience, that you have that corporate experience, that you have worked into a business world, and you can bring that experience to work with them in position of responsibility, as well as in that extracurricular points. Highlight the particular word or terminology which you want the other person to see when they go through your CV, and ensure there are no grammatical mistakes, and the point should be short and sharp.
The next point that we'll be covering is with respect to the case and the guesstimate preparation, how you went ahead with it.
Yeah, sure. So this is the most terrifying part for any MBA preparation, interview preparation, the case and the guesstimate. So multiple workshops have been arranged during my interview preparation from the placement committee, and even I reached out to my seniors and other third-party resources which are available on the internet to prepare for the guesstimates. But believe me, these workshops will only do a little for you. You need to actually solve them. It will not happen that you just read them or go through multiple examples and then you'll understand how it works. You actually need to use pen and paper. You have to go to the basics. You have to break down the situation into multiple parts and then try to solve it. Many a times, what makes or breaks a case in case guesstimates is how do you approach the problem. Many a times it's not even about the numbers. Sometimes even in the interview they'll ask you somewhat which will be less dependent on the numbers but more dependent on how are you going to break down that problem to arrive at that number. So please focus on that. I referred to multiple compendiums which I got from my different friends who were studying at the same time in different IIMs, from my seniors, from third party resources, or even from which was shared by our placement committee. So it was all there, resources were multiple, but one thing that makes or breaks the case for you is practice. You have to do a lot, and I would personally say I started preparing 1 month ago, but still during the interview time I was nervous. So I say give start preparing much more earlier than that, so you'll be much more confident in multiple types of cases. So I personally started preparing for guesstimates 1 month ago. Before that, I was a bit terrified, and with that hesitation. It took me at least 1 month to start, but I actually regret it. I should have started a much bit earlier. But yeah, I practiced, and what I noticed was the more and more example I was going through, and more interview experiences I was listening from my seniors, majority of the questions belongs to supply and demand problem. Like uh, you need to understand that what will be the footfall for a certain bank. So maybe this is one of the example I can think of right now. So such kind of examples are much more common in guesstimate type of problems, and you guys will also see when you practice. So focus more on these guesstimates while you will prepare. You will be preparing. These are much more easier to learn to, and they will give you a much more systematic approach on which you can build much more complex guesstimate cases.
So the next thing that I want to understand from you is how you prepared for your personal interviews, since you are uh, one of the few candidates who were not from the IT background in our college. So how you went about it? What were the main areas that you actually covered for your personal interview?
So in the personal interview, there are majorly two parts. One is the HR part, another one is the technical part. So for the HR part, as you all must have been told that there is a list of questions, an exhaustive list of questions. I think 25 or 30 questions or something about. So you just prepare those questions well before your interview. And one thing that helped me in getting the confidence about those questions was the mock interview that I gave, which was arranged by Placecom. So that mock interview plus my preparation in the HR interview part gave me HR question part gave me confidence. So I was more or less ready about that part. Now comes the second and more important part, which was the technical part. So for me, I had 2 rounds of technical interviews and 1 round of HR interview. And I was not from the IT background, so it was a bit challenging. But what I understood was while applying for the company, you should always consider that what do you have, what skills you have, what experience you have, and how can you make it relevant to the company uh, by understanding what they are asking. So the requirement for which I applied for the position, so the requirement for the job had few of the characteristics in which or had few of the requirements which I had actually past experience. Not the complete JD. I did not have past experience for that particular role, but like one or two pointers. Like one of the pointers was working with understanding of the RFP or RFQ documents, working with them. So I had understanding of RFP and RFQ documents because of my past experience. So I could make that relevant for me. Other one was understanding clients' requirement and coming up with a solution. So this was relevant from my internship experience. So even though I was not able to cover all the points of the JD, but yet I was somehow able to convince them that what are your requirements? I understand them and I have skills through which I can actually contribute productively to that position. So this is what matters if you don't have that particular background.
I would like to understand that the main crux of the placement is the job description that we get and the things that we should know about a company. So, what are your views about it?
I think it is the most critical part in any interview process because many a times, even in our case, the JDs were coming like a flood and you had a deadline to meet. So many a times people don't even read the JD and they apply. And when they get shortlisted, then they go through the JD and then it's like a major headache because their past experience or their knowledge doesn't match with the JD. Then how are you going to pitch yourself in an interview? So please make an effort. Please spend at least 15 minutes even before applying. Just read the JD, whether it is making sense to you. I understand that one of the major criteria, like people are under pressure. So that's why they don't have time and they just apply that somehow we just get placement. But please do that because you're going to do that job at least for next 1 year or so. So that is one thing. And even after getting shortlisted, before going to the interview, two major things you need to know about. First is your job description. Please read it thoroughly once, twice, thrice. Reach out to your contacts via LinkedIn who has worked on those particular positions earlier. call them, message them, understand what is exactly the work that they are doing, and do you want to do that work on a personal level. And other thing, for cracking the interview, how can you use your CV to pitch yourself that yes, you can do this work which they have mentioned in the job description. And second thing is, you need to know about the company. So I contacted actually one of my seniors regarding this, that how do you prepare for the company overview. So she used to tell me that she would do the uh, industry analysis of that particular industry, like who are the major competitors of that company in the market, what is their current revenue, and what are their future aspirations and some HR policies. Because anyway, you are going to be part of that company, so you should also be knowing where you are going. And other thing also, that it sometimes actually helps. So for me, it actually helped understanding the JD in my interview, because once I cleared the first round of my technical interview, so before I was actually appearing for my second round of interview, I was just not very sure about the JD. I had few doubts, so I reached out via LinkedIn to mutual connection of my friend who actually worked in that position 2 3 years ago. Then he left, so I connected with him, contacted him, called him, and asked him to please explain me the JD, what he used to do from like morning when the day starts in his office until the day he leaves. So he actually told me the in and out of the job, everything. And the first thing the interviewer asked me in that interview panel was, "What do you understand from the job description?" So this was something very lucky for me. But the point I'm trying to say is, it is actually necessary for company also that they hire the candidates who actually understand what they're going to do. It should not be a surprise for them as well, because they don't want to hire a liability. No? They also want to hire someone who understands what they're getting themselves into, not taking it sounding like a bad thing or something, but you should know. So I think understanding the fundamentals of company, understanding which industry it belongs to, understanding your job description is the most critical part of any interview process. So please focus on that.
So Gitanjali, one of the most fundamental thing that a candidate should focus upon is how he should brush up the MBA knowledge and that he currently possesses and the currently he or she is undergoing through, especially the specialization based questions like class specializations, right? So how did you go about it?
Okay, so this is the part I think after Guesstimate, most of the students are nervous about, because I was nervous about it, because MBA is such a fast-paced program that you think that after a year, Ari, what did I learn in the first semester? I don't remember anything at all. But don't be nervous. It is all there. You learned it. You made the projects. You did the submission. So one thing that actually was a lifesaver for me was the compendium, those which were shared by different clubs and committees. So what they do was they gave me an overview of what are all the broader concepts, or what is the flow of that particular specialization. What are all the topics or the concepts I need to cover? So what I did was simply went through the compendium, each and every concept. I categorized it. Okay, this I know very well. This I don't know when I read it, or this I am not so sure about. Then I referred to my old notes or my presentations or my projects I made, or consulted my seniors, my friends, or my colleagues, batchmates, that I want to understand all the concepts. So created a basic understanding of those concepts. And even while like some of the concepts which I had no remembrance reading at all, I actually created again notes for them, because it was unnecessary for me. So before going for the interview, I just looked at those notes, uh, slight glance or just normal glance at through those notes. So this actually helped me preparing well. And specifically, not only just the fundamentals, specifically the specialization based question, because I was actually asked, even though my role was not relevant to what my specialization was, but still, in your interview, you will be asked specialization based questions, that whether it is related to operations, finance, or marketing. So even in that sense, these making notes of more notes and going through the compendium and revising those notes is very helpful. because I was asked questions related to retail marketing and my job is not related to retail marketing. But I was able to answer those questions because of that preparation.
So thanks, Gitanjali, for walking us through the all end-to-end placement preparation thing that you actually went through and letting us know your views about it. So I hope to see you again in our channel. So once again, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Sure, it will be my pleasure to come like whenever you guys need me for any help or any assistance. And thank you so much for having me.